for aviation fans at Vancouver International Airport yesterday. This is the newest addition to the Airbus fleet. Cathay Pacific's Airbus A350-900 arrived in Canada for the first time yesterday at YVR.
Vancouver Airport is introducing pet therapy to help people deal with stress.
Well, are you a nervous flyer? YVR has a program that may help you stay calm before boarding your next flight.
Now YVR is going to the dogs. They want to calm your nerves, and you can see it in action right here. Christmas music, a breeze through security, all is calm today at YVR, but the holiday rush is about to take off.
An average of about 78,000 people arriving and departing from the airport every single day.
Another airline has added a daily direct flight between Vancouver and Hong Kong. A Hong Kong Airlines plane landed for the first time on YVR's tarmac this morning.
YVR is the fastest growing international airport in North America.
Well, hello everyone. The video you just saw was a brief glimpse into the incredible year we had in 2017. I'm Mary Jordan, and on behalf of the Board of Directors and the Airport Authority team, I'd like to welcome you to our annual public meeting. We're here today at Vancouver International Airport, what we call YVR, located on Sea Island at the mouth of the Fraser River. Our friends at Musqueam have different names for this land and have been involved in its stewardship for thousands of years. One of our achievements last year was the signing of the Musqueam Indian Band YVR Airport Sustainability and Friendship Agreement. This historic 30-year agreement is the first of its kind. I want to thank Chief Wayne Sparrow and the Musqueam people for working with us. Together, we're going to continue to build a better airport for everyone. To begin our annual public meeting, I would like to introduce Larry Grant, who will offer a traditional Musqueam welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you all fine? Siam Nishaya to Holmo, Ayerlak, Gonasquich, y Tenitin of Musqueam. Glock, Juvenil, Capolano, y Fultimoto, cos Heloxtuk, the Finas, Emignetten, Coshui, to Sans Tomoc at Musqueam. Stay Gonas Juvenil, Capolano, set something neat to swallow, y Heloxtala. To swallow up to eat to not well. I want to say thank you to all of you that are here this afternoon. I'm Larry Grant. I'm one of the elders of the Musqueam community that's just directly across the north arm of the river here. And our ancestor was here to greet the first ship under Captain Narvaez of the Spanish, and the first English ship under Captain George Vancouver. And as our great-great-great-grandparent had done in the past, I do today, and raise my hands in welcome to all of you here at YVR on the traditional ancestral lands that are not ceded by Musqueam. And I raise my hands in welcome as they have done in the past. Our community and our people have lived always on the mouth of the river that they call Fraser today. And we have, our stories go back to the Ice Age approximately 10,000 years ago. And our community, as the Delta grew, has occupied our main community of Musqueam continuously for 4,000 years. So it's really, really something to be able to see this, where I know my mother didn't see airplanes when she was a child. We didn't have telephones. And as a kid, we could hear the geese and the birds in the evening on the night flight. And today, all you can hear is zoom. So I'm glad to be here to do the welcome. And I want to say thank you again for having me here today to be able to welcome the people that are here today on the traditional, ancestral, unceded lands of the Musqueam speaking Musqueam people. Colette Quincy-Tala, he looks tala to swallow hui namat hui te tanawa. Thank you. Hi, Tepka.
So, Hashka, thank you very much, Larry. At today's meeting, we will revisit and celebrate a number of our 2017 achievements. Among them, I would like to mention 2 awards that we were honored to receive. Both were in the area of governance. We received Best Overall Corporate Governance and Best Practices to Enhance Corporate Boardroom Diversity at the 2017 Governance Professionals of Canada Excellence in Governance Awards. In the write-up for the Best Overall Governance Award, it noted that our governance model is unique and cited the Airport Authority for the thoughtful governance principles that guide our community-focused, financially independent organization. I firmly believe that this unique model allows us to operate not only in a safe, secure, and efficient airport, but an airport that provides significant financial and social benefits to our communities and across the province. Now I'd like to take a minute to introduce your board of directors. First, YVR is a private, not-for-profit organization. There are no equity shareholders, so no money leaves the airport as dividends. All earnings are reinvested in the airport to deliver our fundamental mission, to support our community by connecting BC proudly to the world. You've met me. As chair, I'm director at large, and Craig Richmond also serves on the board by virtue of his role as president and CEO. Joseph Caron is a director at large. John Curry is the nominee of the Chartered Professional Accountants of British Columbia. Anna Fung is the nominee of the Law Society of British Columbia. Ken Goosen is the nominee of Engineers and Geoscientists BC. Howard Jampolsky is the nominee of the City of Richmond, and Annalisa King is a director at large. Kush Panache is one of 2 federal government nominees. One position is currently vacant. Jerry Sinclair is a director at large. Tamara Vrooman is the nominee of the City of Vancouver, and Wayne Wright is the nominee of Metro Vancouver. I wish to thank Ken Martin, the nominee of the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade, whose last day on the board is today. Ken has served on the board for 3 years, and we benefited from his experience as a senior executive and CEO. He was a member of the board's Planning and Development and Human Resources and Compensation Committees and brought useful insight to his work on both of them. I want to wish Ken all the best and reiterate our appreciation for the contributions he made. Just a little clap. Thanks. I'll now very quickly review the day's agenda. Steve Hankinson, Vice President, Operations and Maintenance, will touch on our operational performance in 2017. Glenn McCoy, Senior Vice President, Strategy and CFO, will present the financial statements for 2017. Anne Murray, Vice President, Airline Business Development and Public Affairs, will talk about the new services and airlines we welcomed in 2017. And Craig Richmond, our President and CEO, will discuss YVR's future. In addition to presentations by our executives, you'll also hear from 3 team members who will talk about 2017 from their perspective. Kathy Nyfors will talk about serving all our customers in her presentation on accessibility and customer care. Mary Point will provide an overview of the Musqueam Indian Band YVR Sustainability and Friendship Agreement and our implementation successes to date. And Bryce Baxter will talk about sustainability and safety as an engineer on the Apron LED project. After these presentations, we'll open the meeting for your questions, comments, and suggestions. We'll also answer questions submitted to us by our social media tools. I want to remind you that we are recording this meeting, and it is streaming on Facebook Live for those who cannot be here in person. After the meeting, it will be available on our Facebook page and on our website, yvr.ca. My final task before I introduce Steve is to present our 2017 Annual and Sustainability Report. The full report, including our audited financial statements, was published on our website April 26th, fulfilling our commitment to make the report available well in advance of today's meeting. The report is available online, and we also have some summary pages for you, so please take one on your way out. We welcome any feedback you have on our annual reporting. With that, I'm pleased to introduce Steve Hankinson, Vice President, Operations and Maintenance, to present our 2017 operational results.
Thank you, Mary, and good afternoon, everyone. In 2017, we experienced record growth, started ambitious projects, and continued to improve the airport for everyone. It was a year full of big and important numbers, some of which I would like to share with you today. YVR welcomed a record 24.2 million passengers, an increase of over 8%. This was thanks to new and continued air services and strong growth across all sectors. We had over 289,000 takeoffs and landings on our runways. We also had strong float, plane, and helicopter traffic. In total, there were more than 330,000 aircraft movements. We also saw an encouraging trend. Aircraft movements went up by just 3.5%. This means we are continuing to move more people per aircraft. And cargo had a great year. We moved our highest volume ever at more than 313,000 metric tons, an increase of almost 11%. This included high-demand BC perishables, such as salmon, spot prawns, and cherries. And over half of our air cargo transited through the airport, demonstrating YVR's strength as a connecting hub. At the same time, we remained committed to customer care. We achieved a 90% satisfaction rating. This marked 5 years in a row with a rating of 90% or higher. Our team answered more than 1 million inquiries at our information counters, and we also responded to over 30,000 inquiries through our communication channels. And for the 28th year, our green coats continued to shine. They delivered over 80,000 hours of service. They are key to our success, and I would like to ask all the green coats who are present just to stand for a moment. We just want to acknowledge your contribution and say thank you. Thank you. Our team was put to the test last summer. They coordinated complex projects that required considerable effort from our airside, operations, and baggage teams with a range of contractors. And they did this in the middle of record growth, with up to 85,000 passengers and 100,000 bags on peak days. To better move all these bags, we completed the new high-speed baggage backbone system. This multi-year project greatly improves the baggage process. It connects 25 kilometers of existing systems with a more efficient and reliable process, with the ability to transfer a bag to anywhere in the terminal in under 30 minutes. We also worked with our partner, GlidePath, on a new self-service bag drop system called Check It Express. In fact, we will be unveiling it this week in the domestic terminal with our partner, Air Canada. This is the most accessible, efficient, and intuitive self-service bag drop on the market. It has an average processing time under 10 seconds with an easy-to-use process. Outside the terminal, we launched YVR's new remote stand operations, which refers to passenger busing. We created a new busing gate in our international terminal and provided buses for 2 airline partners. This program was a success. Passengers experienced minimal walking and transfer times, and we gained valuable insights on how to improve the process. For instance, in 2018, we will expand our operations, adding 7 new fully electric buses in our U.S. and international terminals. Will also add AVI ramps, which allow passengers to board through covered walkways. Our goal is to make it the best busing experience possible. And I want to thank our 2017 partners who made this program a big success. Our winter operations team was put to the test at both ends of the year. We began preparing in late summer, and when the snow hit, we had up to 80 pieces of equipment in use to ensure we got passengers on their way safely. We also worked on a range of airfield projects to ensure we maintain YVR's high standard of safety, our top priority. To provide context, we have 4 operational runways: the north, the south, the crosswind, and the Fraser River for floatplane activity. The north and south are our 2 parallel runways, which are used for the majority of departures and arrivals. The south is the longest of our runways and is our main runway that operates 24 hours a day. We worked on our runway and safety areas, or RESAs as they're known. These are specialized areas that improve safety in the unlikely event that an aircraft lands short or overshoots a runway. We have committed to building 300-meter RESAs on all of our runways, double the proposed Canadian standard. In 2017, we completed RESAs on our south and crosswind runways, and will start work on the north runway this summer. While working on RESAs, we also undertook taxiway and runway repairs. This included resurfacing a 30-meter strip down the center of the south runway. This summer, we will continue maintenance and upgrades on our runways. However, we will do things a little bit differently. To accommodate construction of RESAs on the north runway, the south runway will remain open. The north runway will be closed between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. May through November, and the south runway will be used for all arrivals and departures. This will be a change from the last several years, where the north runway was used at night. In addition, we will carry out annual runway maintenance on the south runway in June. The north runway is primarily used for arrivals. It is approved for departures as required to reduce delays, such as during peak times. This summer, NAV Canada will be using the north runway for some departures during the day when it's required. It will only be used when necessary to reduce delays. If you have any questions about our 2018 summer runway operations, I encourage you to go to yvr.ca or come and see me afterward. To conclude, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our business partners. Thank you to the airlines and ground handlers, to the government agencies, NAV Canada, the retail, food, and beverage providers, for your contribution in caring for all of our customers. And thank you, too, to our neighbors for their patience during our busy periods. Now, I'd like to introduce Kathy Nightforce, our Manager of Customer Care.
Thank you, Steve. At YVR, we're committed to providing a positive experience for everyone. To do this, we work with our customers and our partners, upgrading the terminal and launching innovative programs. For instance, in 2017, we partnered with the Canadian National Institute for the Blind to develop a new travel program for customers. Participants navigated our airport, providing us also with valuable feedback on how we can improve its design for people who are blind and partially sighted. At the same time, we worked with the Western Institute for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing to provide a terminal audit. As a result, we expanded locations for our visual paging to include many of our flight information display screens, our baggage carousel screens, and also on some of our big boards that you'd commonly see in our food court areas. We also continued with our popular experiential tours with Canucks Autism Network and Spinal Cord Injury BC, helping make travel a bit easier. We also worked on a range of terminal improvements. This included purchasing new Staxi wheelchairs that have space underneath them to store luggage. These are also available at our information counters. We developed an accessible help point kiosk, which recently launched in our U.S. departures area. And we trialed a customer care curbside person to provide passengers with information as they arrive. This role was a huge success, and I'm glad to say it will be returning this month. And of course, we launched the very popular Less Airport Stress initiative, otherwise known as LASSI. We partnered with the St. John Ambulance to bring several of their dogs and volunteer handlers here to YVR Monday to Friday during our peak travel periods. Why? Because we understand travel can be stressful no matter who you are. And that's why our ambassador dogs are for everyone. So next time you're in the terminal, I recommend that you stop by for a pet. In fact, you may have seen some of them as you arrived today. On that note, I would like to say a huge thank you to all of our partners who helped make YVR a more friendly and welcoming place in 2017. I would now like to welcome Glenn McCoy, Senior Vice President, Strategy and Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Kathy, and good afternoon. I will be presenting the highlights of our 2017 non-consolidated financial statements, which cover the Airport Authority's activities from the last year. The Airport Authority earns revenue from three sources. The first source is aeronautical revenue in the form of landing and terminal fees, collected to recover the costs related to airline operations. This revenue amounted to $136 million in 2017, up from $127 million in 2016. This increase was due to an exceptional year for air travel, where we saw over 8% growth in passengers. Aiding our growth is Connect YVR, our 5-year rates and charges program, which includes incentives for growth and efficiency, and which made YVR's rates lower than any other airport in Canada and lower than competing U.S. airports. The second source is non-aeronautical revenue, which includes concession revenue from duty-free, retail, food and beverage, and car rentals, as well as car parking and land and terminal rents. Revenue from these sources increased to $234 million in 2017, an increase of $23 million from 2016, due mainly to increases from duty-free, car parking, car rentals, and kiosks. The third source of revenue is the Airport Improvement Fee, or AIF, which is collected to help fund capital projects. Total revenue earned from the fee in 2017 was $159 million, up from $150 million in 2016, due to strong passenger growth. YVR continues to have the lowest AIF in Canada and only charges a $5 fee for passengers traveling in British Columbia. In summary, the total revenue earned from these three sources in 2017 was $529 million, with the largest portion of the revenue, 44%, coming from non-aeronautical sources. This is part of the Airport Authority's strategy to keep AIF rates and airline charges low to ensure we remain competitive and attract new services that benefit British Columbia. Turning to expenses, a portion of non-AIF revenue goes towards covering the day-to-day costs of operating the airport. We spend money on items such as safety and security, maintenance, cleaning, customer care, salaries and wages to our staff, and payments in lieu of taxes to local governments. In 2017, these costs increased by $20 million, from $191 million to $211 million. The increase is mainly due to snow operations, marketing, terminal repair and maintenance, baggage sortation, and wage increases per the collective bargaining agreement, all in support of achieving our strategic plan objectives. The Airport Authority also uses a portion of its revenue to pay ground lease rent to the federal government. In 2017, the rent expense increased by $4 million, from $51 million to $55 million. This was due to the increased revenue I described earlier, as the ground lease rent payment is determined as a percentage of revenue. When the total cash needed to pay for capital projects during any year exceeds the amount of cash available after payment of operating costs, ground lease, and interest costs, debt financing is required. The Airport Authority carefully manages debt levels and seeks to achieve a balance between debt and sources of revenue. We currently have $550 million in long-term debt, and last year we did not incur any new borrowings. Debt carries interest payments, which amounted to $30 million in 2017, consistent with 2016. As required under generally accepted accounting principles, in the statement of operations in the financial statements, the cost of capital projects is spread over the useful life of the projects, as opposed to being recognized as the cash paid each year during a project's construction. The spreading of the cost over the useful life is reflected as amortization on the statement of operations. Total amortization in 2017 amounted to $147 million, up from $138 million in 2016, result of new facilities that came into operation. The Airport Authority also realized $5 million of partnership income from the entities created to hold various tenant buildings focused mainly on cargo on Sea Island. The total excessive revenue over expenses was $85 million in 2017, an increase of $1 million from 2016. Keep in mind all excess revenue over expenses is reinvested in the airport, as I will show you now. When we adjust our excess revenue or expenses to a cash basis, we add back amortization, which is a non-cash expense. In 2017, the Airport Authority generated $260 million of cash flow prior to investment in capital projects, which is made up of the two amounts shown here. $63 million of net cash flow from operations, plus $153 million net of collection costs from the AIF. During 2017, the Airport Authority invested $168 million of this cash in capital projects. This left $48 million of cash remaining, which, when added to the $160 million of cash we had at the beginning of the year, leaves $208 million of cash available at year-end, which is being used to fund projects in 2018 and future years. The Airport Authority remains very strong financially, one of only 3 airports in the world with a AA credit rating. Thank you. And now I'm pleased to introduce Mary Point, Manager of Indigenous Relations.
Hajkasiem Glen I Hajkasiem Zayatak. Asiem Nesiea and the Mary Point Tenitsanach Musqueam. Hajtsepka Amitsepquatquilum. Honored visitors, in the language of my ancestors, I said thank you to Glenn and to our dear Elder Larry, and thank you all for being here, and you're very welcome here today. I'm so excited to have this opportunity to speak about the Musqueam Indian Band YVR Sustainability and Friendship Agreement. While it's been almost 1 year since we signed the agreement, our relationship goes back many decades. As the traditional stewards of the land, Musqueam people have been here long before the airport. We have many names for this area. Some of you call this place YVR. Others call it Sea Island. We call it Ta Shwametst, our home. Together, we are committed to protecting this land while providing opportunities for our people. And now we will do this with YVR through the agreement and its 4 pillars of sustainability: economic, social, environment, and governance. This agreement is an opportunity to invest in each other, and so far, we've made great progress. We are recruiting Musqueam for 9 positions at the airport, and there are many more jobs coming. YVR and its partners have each committed to filling 10 jobs and contracts, and to date, that's almost 40 positions. In 2017, we, the Musqueam people, received the first installment of revenue sharing as part of the agreement. YVR will continue to pay 1% of its revenue each year to Musqueam. This will go a long way to helping us further develop our community for current and future generations. Education is very important. In just 1 generation, we've seen major change. When my father was young, it was illegal for him to go to school after grade 6. And now, there's so much potential. In 2017, through the YVR Art Foundation, scholarships were provided to young, emerging, mid-career artists and masters. As part of this agreement, we will begin providing 10 scholarships every year to Musqueam people who plan on returning to school. It's huge for us. This year, we will also launch an apprenticeship program for 4 Musqueam members. In March, we started our first environmental project under the agreement. Musqueam Fisheries and YVR Environment Team are working together to manage invasive plant species and improve sea island habitat. They are making good progress taking care to preserve native plants and soil. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and that's why I'm here. In my role, I help support a relationship committee, which makes sure both sides maintain a healthy relationship. I facilitate the agreement and explore new opportunities. And As I explore the opportunities with managers, contractors, vendors, and tenants, I learn more about what it takes to operate this airport. And I learn more about the many amazing people who work hard every day to ensure passengers, baggage, and cargo gets where it needs to go. What I have seen so far gives me great hope. We have a shared responsibility to manage this great community asset, and we can only do this by coming together as friends. We have to remember where we come from to know where we're going, and I'm so proud to represent Musqueam, and I know that through this agreement, we're going in the right direction. So, Haitsepka, thank you all. It is now my pleasure to welcome Kathanasiea, my good friend, Anne Murray, Vice President, Airline Business Development and Public Affairs.
Haichka, thank you, Mary. Thank you very, very much. 2017 was an exceptional year for connections, with more choices and opportunities for our passengers. Thanks to our airline partners, we linked passengers and products to 127 destinations worldwide, up from 120 the year before. Air Canada led this growth with another fantastic year, increasing seat capacity by 9% and accounting for over half our passenger growth. They connected YVR with great international destinations, including new services to Frankfurt, Taipei, and Melbourne on the beautiful Boeing Dreamliner aircraft. Thanks to Air Canada, flying through YVR is now one of the fastest ways to get to Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane in Australia from the US East Coast. The flights are timed conveniently to take advantage of Air Canada's extensive US network to important cities such as New York. To increase services to the United States, Air Canada also launched new flights to Dallas, Denver, and Boston last year. And in Canada, they continued to offer an extensive domestic network. This included new services to Yellowknife with Air Canada Express. Air Canada Rouge also had a great year, covering 3 continents with new connections to Orlando, Florida, Nagoya, Japan, and London Gatwick in the United Kingdom. Cathay Pacific increased its Hong Kong frequency and introduced the Airbus A350-900 for the first time in Canada. Like the Dreamliner, the A350 is an amazing aircraft. It's quiet, it's fuel efficient, and it's very comfortable for all the passengers. We're very pleased last year also to welcome our new partner, Hong Kong Airlines. Our inaugural event caused quite a stir. Fans were cheering for the brand ambassador Jackie Chan and for Craig Richmond, our president and CEO, as they emerged from the passenger bridge. That was thanks to the viral video that featured Craig getting ready to challenge the Wing Chun master. Iceland Air increased its seasonal service to year-round, thanks for increasing tourism demand, and they also have ongoing connections from Iceland to Northern Europe. Sunwings restarted flights to Montego Bay, with YVR's only service to that iconic destination. And all markets saw very, very strong growth, with Mexico up the most at 28%. So this was thanks in part to the Canadian government lifting visa restrictions for Mexican travelers in 2016. So in addition to the existing services from Aeromexico and Air Canada, we welcomed 3 airlines to the market. This included our new airline partner Interjet, with service to Mexico City and Cancun. China Southern launched new service between Guangzhou and Mexico City, which marked the first route between China and Mexico via YVR. And WestJet kicked off new service to Huatulco and Mexico City, further linking YVR to these key business and tourism hubs. Closer to home, WestJet Encore launched daily services to Nanaimo and Comox, and we welcomed our new partner, Flair Airlines, with service to Kelowna and Edmonton and onward connections to Toronto. And last year, Air Canada announced services that are starting right now in 2018. This included Sacramento, which is the first connection from anywhere in Canada to that American city, and as well as a broad range of international services, including Paris, Zurich, as well as increased services to London Heathrow, Delhi, and Melbourne. While we welcomed record passenger growth, we also continued to build our community connections here at home. We introduced YVR's Get Packing contest at 17 festivals in the summer, promoting tickets and destination for many of our airlines. We completed phase 3 of consultation for our 20-year master plan, which looks at how YVR will meet future growth in a sustainable manner. This phase included an online survey, open houses, meetings, all of which provided great feedback from the community. We submitted the master plan to the Minister of Transport and just heard yesterday that the Minister has approved the land use plan. So we look forward to sharing the final plans with everyone. And our Explorer Tour was a big success. The free year-round guided tour showcases our award-winning art, architecture, and accessible terminal. We hosted 100 tours with over 2,000 participants from day camps, school groups, adult students, social support groups, and more. And we continue to give back. In 2017, YVR donated over $1 million to more than 50 organizations. We contributed to a wide range of great causes, from the Pacific Salmon Foundation to BC Mobility Opportunity Society, Covenant House, and the YVR Art Foundation. With over $100,000 in YVR funding each year, the foundation continues its amazing work supporting Indigenous artists from all around British Columbia and the Yukon with scholarships, grants, awards, and exhibition opportunities. I would like to thank all of our new and long-standing airline partners for such a great year. It's because of your efforts that we continue to grow, providing economic and social opportunities to the people of British Columbia. I would also like to thank our many community partners for their support. We are proud to be part of your vision. And thank you to everyone who chooses to fly with YVR and our partners. Your support is key to our ongoing success. Next, I would like to welcome our immediate project engineer, Bryce Baxter, intermediate project engineer, Bryce Baxter, who will talk about YVR's new apron lighting.
Thanks, Anne. At YVR, we're always looking for innovative ways to improve our operations, and oftentimes our solutions provide multiple benefits. For example, a couple years ago, we recognized a significant opportunity to improve our apron lighting here at YVR. Here's a shot of our apron back in 2016. We felt we could address this issue in an innovative way and made the case for LED technology and how this would improve our operations. After a lot of hard work, we got the ball rolling. We partnered with BC Hydro through their Industrial Energy Manager program, and we also enlisted Musqueam Lighting through a competitive process. The result was a flagship installation for Canadian airports. Here's the same shot of the apron, but now in 2017, after we completed what became the largest installation of LED apron lighting in a Canadian airport. As you can see, the difference is quite amazing. This modern lighting system is another example of how we are making the airport more efficient. It marks the first time an airport in North America has implemented an adaptive dimming lighting system based on gate usage. This system significantly reduces power consumption, saving us around 715,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is the equivalent of 72 residential households in BC. It also provides a brighter work environment with expanded lighting coverage and better color rendering. In addition, it uses an anti-glare technology that directs the light only where required. This technology also provides safety for our pilots, air traffic controllers, as well as our ground crews. This new system is a great example of how sustainable solutions improve the airport in many ways. It's easier to maintain, it reduces costs, and it also supports our environmental goals to reduce energy use. Thank you. I would now like to welcome Craig Richmond, YVR's President and CEO.
Well, thank you, Bryce, for that great snapshot on our new apron lighting, a perfect example of innovation, which will be crucial as we build your future airport. I'll touch on this in a moment, but first, thank you all for coming today. Bonjour tout le monde, ni hao, and in Musqueam, asiam nasiea, ametsiep quatquilam. My apologies to Larry and Mary. I assure you I am just as bad in most languages, but it does come from my heart. And honored visitors, you are very welcome here because after all, this meeting is for you. As a not-for-profit, community-based organization, this airport is here for BC. As you've heard, YVR has continued to experience record growth with a range of new air services, and I'd like to thank our airlines who continue to serve this province so well. We're also keeping up with demand thanks to a great team that has maintained our exceptional customer care while completing these key upgrades. At YVR, we help facilitate $16.5 billion in total economic output across BC through our operations and by enabling tourism and cargo. And over 24,000 people work on Sea Island to support our airport. It's a whole community of people from diverse backgrounds supporting our success. And this team was put to the test in 2017, as you heard, with long periods of strong growth and a range of ambitious new projects. And I'm proud to say, people of YVR, you once again persevered and over-delivered. We were recently voted Best Airport in North America for a record 9 years in a row. So please give yourselves a round of applause. "2017 was a year of milestones. As you heard from Mary Point, we signed our historic Musqueam Indian Band YVR Airport Sustainability and Friendship Agreement, a real turning point in YVR's history. It demonstrates that we're much more than just an airport. We're a community asset, and as such, we recognize that good governance and airport success go hand in hand. Part of good governance is good planning, and many of our wins in 2017 were the result of good, thorough planning in previous years. So we continued that effort, creating a new strategic plan, which outlines 3 big, audacious targets for 2020. 29 million passengers, 144 destinations, and 327,000 metric tons of cargo. To reach these targets, we launched Flight Plan 2037, our airport future flight plan. It includes a wide range of projects that will help us grow sustainably, with a capital plan totaling almost $8 billion over the next 20 years. And remember, none of that money comes from the government. As Glenn pointed out, it's all generated or borrowed here at the airport. That's a very significant investment, all for your airport, and it covers a wide range of improvements, from check-in enhancements to baggage upgrades, terminal expansions, and much more. For example, in 2017, we started work on our international terminal expansion. When it opens in 2020, this expansion will greatly increase capacity, with 8 new gates to support aircraft and busing operations. And it will be beautiful, adding to our sense of place. Here you see the mythical island with real trees that will sit right in the middle of the concourse. I think you'll love this addition. Steve mentioned our successful busing operations from 2017. And as we build, you'll see more busing at YVR. In fact, we're going to be busing like any other major airport hub. Why? Well, we can add them faster to keep up with the demand, and they're very financially efficient. A bus stand costs about $12 million to add, which is about a quarter of the price of a gate attached to the terminal. And we're not compromising customer service. The process is quick, uses state-of-the-art equipment, and will delight our passengers. What you see here is a big project starting this year, which involves adding 10 busing operations on our East Apron. This will greatly increase our ability to manage growth from international and U.S. markets. To do this, we will take away 2,000 parking spots from JetSet parking. However, we'll make up for that loss with a new valet service for all JetSet customers, which will be comfortable, efficient, and cost-effective. And rest assured, we'll continue to have plenty of parking options for everyone, such as our new 6-story parkade. When complete in 2021, the new parkade will significantly increase capacity. It will also have a range of sustainability features, including a rainwater harvesting system that will help us meet our water conservation goals and emergency water needs, lots of electric vehicle charging stations, and a system to guide you to empty stalls. I wanted to put this picture up against the advice of my comms department to show our crews at work in less than ideal weather conditions. All our other photos are this beautiful weather. And our teams work out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in all weather conditions. So what are they doing? Well, they're not actually stealing trees. They are moving 90 fully grown trees from our old parking lot to our new value long-term lot. Starting in November, our crews worked on select evenings to move these trees with as little disruption as possible. It wasn't easy, but these trees are our friends, and friends help each other move. The trees were taken to a new nursery along Miller Road and then into our new value long-term parking lot, which recently opened on March 1st, pictured here. Located at Templeton Station, the lot is just a 4-minute free train ride from the terminal. It's the most economical choice for parking, offering more than 2,000 stalls, with designated family stalls, accessible stalls, and covered walkways, and a first-rate bus shelter. We also started planning our new central utilities building, which will be located next to the new parkade. It's easy to forget that this terminal building in which we're sitting is the biggest building in BC, so it needs a lot of heating and cooling. This building will improve our energy efficiency by centralizing all of the equipment needed to meet the airport's heating, cooling, and electrical demand. It will sit on top of one of Canada's largest geo-exchange plants, which will use groundwater as heating and cooling medium. This will enable us to hit one of our biggest targets in the coming years, which is to reduce our greenhouse gases. We aim to be a leader not just in airport management and customer service, but environmental sustainability. And to do this, we have a robust environmental management plan with 2020 goals based on 2012 baselines, including reductions in greenhouse gases, waste, potable water use, and in improving our overall ecosystem health. We're making good progress. For example, for the second year in a row, we exceeded our waste target, diverting 51% of our terminal waste from landfill. This was thanks to the efforts of our team and partners on our many unique programs, such as our award-winning YVR Waste Wars. And here's a great statistic. We recycled 99% of our construction materials from major projects. This includes over 41 million kilos of asphalt, the weight of 100 Boeing 747 aircraft. We were the first airport in the world to achieve Salmon Safe certification, which is a pretty good gauge of our overall ecosystem health. This program acknowledges our commitment to transform our land and water management practices to protect Fraser River water quality and enhance salmon habitat. We do this for a lot of reasons. It's, of course, the right thing to do. It's good, sustainable business practice, and it's what you, our community, expects. We really believe in our community mandate, which means we should reflect our community, all of it. Mary Jordan mentioned our diversity awards, and Kathy Nifors introduced you to efforts to make travel accessible to all. So let me tell you about our corporate efforts in diversity and inclusion. We believe strongly in pay equity. Of course, our union members, regardless of gender, make the same pay, but we're also seeking to place people in non-traditional union roles, such as women in our trades and emergency response departments. And here's something of which I am very proud, which we worked hard to ensure, and which should be emulated everywhere. All managers at the same level are paid equally, regardless of gender or self-identification. We have virtually no gender pay gap. It's about 1% or almost nothing. Now that might sound like a no-brainer, but I invite you to Google other industries, from finance to media, and you will find that we definitely shine in this regard. We are federally regulated, and so we track traditionally disadvantaged groups. We're doing pretty well. 38% of our board, 40% of our management team, and 44% of our senior management team are women, and 30% of our workforce are ethnic minorities. With our new relationship with the Musqueam, I know we're going to really outperform in hiring Indigenous peoples, and we are working hard to make opportunities for persons with disabilities. If you're watching this, or reading this, or listening to this, and you self-identify as a person with a disability, please contact us. We have a lot of job openings, and we'd want you to apply. We're ready to make you part of our team. At YVR, we aren't quite where we want to be in terms of diversity and inclusion, but we are getting there very quickly. So we're building a better airport for everyone, for our employees, our business partners, our passengers, and communities. But we're also committed to sustainability with ambitious environmental targets and a unique governance model that ensures we stay on track. We are now embarking on our largest construction phase ever. During this time, there will be some big changes, and it won't always be easy. In fact, we'll be depending on a massive team effort, and we'll need your support. But I promise it will be worth it. People ask me why growth is important. Well, in this case, growth provides many good-paying jobs. Right now, we currently have over 500 contractor personnel on site. By the end of the year, this will ramp up to 2,400 full-time contractor jobs at the airport and another 2,400 off-airport. That's 4,800 construction jobs. And we expect this to continue for the next 3 years. So YVR provides a foundation that supports BC, and as we grow, we'll continue to lift our communities. Let's watch a quick clip with some examples.
YVR has been a tremendous partner, and the way I can best describe it is when we look at the connectivity between Kelowna and Vancouver, our busiest city pair is that link. It's that connectivity from other areas within the province, including YLW, that help feed into YVR, that develops our connections globally.
So YVR has become an excellent client for Jacob Brothers Construction. It provides local projects. Many of our employees live and work in the greater Vancouver area and appreciate the opportunity to work so close to home on exciting projects such as we have here at YVR. As YVR grows, we all benefit. The value of having this amount of construction close to home is just tremendous.
YVR helps generate lift for the Disability Foundation and the 6 charitable societies it supports, specifically by showing their commitment to accessibility and inclusion, by enabling us to raise awareness and let more people know about the opportunities for quality of life and active living for people with physical disabilities. We have aspirational goals, we have an aspirational vision. We believe that with teamwork, anything is possible, and we love that one of our leading partners is YVR.
What makes YVR a really good partner is their willingness to come to the table, take off their preconceived ideas of what an Indigenous community is looking for in a friendship agreement, and listening to what our goals and aspirations are and incorporating that into the friendship agreement that we've put down. If you can come to a table and really look from your heart as well as your eyes, we can create such a beautiful opportunity for everybody to succeed.
All right, one last thing. One of the people who is up here is retiring. Mr. Glenn McCoy, Senior VP Strategy and CFO, will be heading for the retirement hills as of 1 July. His replacement, Ms. Diana Wong, is on a anticipatory vacation before we load her up. So Glenn, on behalf of the board, management, and everyone who's flown through here on your tenure, thank you. Thanks for your steady hand on the tiller, the AA credit rating, our borrowing capacity, our enterprise risk management system, our strategic plan, the balanced scorecard, and 100 other initiatives. Thanks also for your encyclopedic knowledge of one of the seminal films of the 20th century. I am referring, of course, to Caddyshack, and for being the other half of our grumpy old men team from the Muppets at executive team meetings. We'll miss you, but you've left us in fine shape, so thanks, Glenn. Now I'll need your parking pass. Thank you. That wraps up our presentations. The executive team and I will now be happy to take questions. Robin McVicker, our Director of Communications, will be moderating Q&A. There are 3 microphones available, 1 in each aisle. Please line up if you have any questions.
Thank you. Well, we've done a lot of talking, so now's your opportunity. We'd love to hear from you. How this is going to work today, as Craig said, we've got 3 different areas for you to stand up and ask questions. We absolutely invite that. 1, 2, however many questions you have. If you've got more than a few questions, I may go to somebody else and come back to you again. We also have a number of questions that have come in by email or on social media. So we'll go between the people that are asking questions here or what we've got on the screen, and we'll share those with you. So to start off, why don't we start with a Twitter question? And I'm going to put my handy dandy glasses on. All right. How is YVR going to reduce traffic congestion on the roads leading to the airport, Craig? The main terminals are already too crowded at busy times. How is YVR going to make the check-in areas less crowded?
Well, there's really 2 questions there, and one of them I think is common throughout the Lower Mainland. One of our biggest issues we found in our master planning was the issue of road access. And so I think we're going to work very closely with TransLink and all of the communities around to see what we can do. As far as making the check-in areas less crowded, the Check-It Express baggage drop-off, self-baggage drop-off will help a lot. It is at least 3 times, maybe 4 times faster than previous check-in, and if we do that, we don't need to expand the process, people will be able to go through faster. So we're always thinking about how to put people through our processes faster.
Excellent, thank you. Andrew, you can give us the next question. Can you upgrade the token system for parking? It's easy to misplace the green while traveling. It's not ideal for business travelers that use the space on a regular basis. A mobile app might be more efficient.
Yeah, I think the little green things work really well. First saw them over in the UK about 8 years ago, and they've cut down the amount of paper that we use significantly. I'm not sure a mobile app would work.
Fair enough. Mr. Grigg, nice to see you.
Thank you very much. A couple of friendly questions, and it's about the report, the annual and sustainability report, which I think was really well done. I'd like to see the metrics that you have put in there. I particularly was interested in the one about waste diversion. So you're ahead of schedule, according to the report, 51% diverted. Of course, it prompted me to think about the other 49%, and perhaps my question should be, what is that 49%? Does that represent waste from aircraft, or is it just the terminals? And if it does represent waste from aircraft as well, is there any way to disaggregate the waste coming off of aircraft and perhaps use that in terms of reuse, recycle? Could it be used as part of your heating system? So that's one question. The second question is perhaps a bit larger in scope, in the sense that it's about the long-term viability of the airport. I congratulate the board of directors and the staff on working with the Musqueam. I think that's really fundamental. It's really an issue of sustainability that hasn't been on the horizon for many people, but I think it gives us a sense that a long-term commitment to the Musqueam people can work, even though at this point, as my understanding, there is no treaty between the federal government and the Musqueam. So I congratulate yourselves and, of course, the Musqueam people on making that reconciliation. The other existential question is, what about the long-term privatization idea mooted by private industry and the previous federal government? Could you speak around this issue to say, this is where we're going? I understand that the plan for the next 20 years has just been approved. Does that give some kind of blessing that the governance will stay as is? This really concerns me, because I feel that if this airport should pass to private ownership, the board be subject to shareholder value as opposed to public value, this is going to be a huge issue. Could you speak to that issue? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm actually not going to answer those three questions first, because I thought you were going to ask about the bike path. Don, tell me about the bike path.
Come up here.
Yeah.
Be watching closely. Thank you.
As far as waste goes, you've actually hit on something that's very important. You know, we worked very hard, especially on food and beverage waste. We're not all the way there yet, but I think we've taken the low-hanging fruit. There's a lot, it's complicated. When international waste comes in, it has to be incinerated for health reasons, but we're looking at everything we can do to reduce that number. You know, what can we keep doing to push that away? You know, I've seen other airports that have all of their plastic utensils are made out of corn-based plastics, you know, and so they're completely biodegradable. We're going to be moving down that route. And we have a really good team that's very fired up. In the new terminal, I think you will see tabletops made of recycled chopsticks that came out of our food court. Long-term viability, thank you very much. We think it just makes total sense. The deal between ourselves and Musqueam is a business deal. You know, we don't have governmental authority. We're just here to say, look, we understand we're on your ancestral lands. We need your help moving forward. You need our help. And I think the most exciting thing about that is what this annual public meeting might look like in 20 years. So it says a 30-year deal, but you know, we're in this for the long haul, and so are the Musqueam. As far as the privatization goes, it really, not to be too fine a point on it, share capitalization, turning this into a for-profit enterprise. We made no bones about it. We don't think that's the right thing to do. We just think that'll add costs, because this is a really nice asset. It would cost a lot to buy it, and then you have to pay that back, and everybody in this room in BC would be paying again. We made that case along with others, and the government listened to us and just said a couple of weeks ago, okay, it's off the table for now. This place only gets more and more valuable, and so I don't think it ever goes away. So we'll be counting on community support to maintain our not-for-profit status.
Great. Thanks, Craig. Are there any other questions from the audience? Oops. David, I think there's a woman right in front of you there. There we go.
Hi, my name is Lynn Davis. I want to thank Mr. Grant and Ms. Point for Mr. Grant's welcome, which is terrific, and Ms. Point's topics that she discussed. And from that, I'm going to ask, since Ms. Point did mention stewardship, and I know that the Musqueam Nation, as with many, many First Nations, are wholly involved in that. I did not hear anything mentioned during the talks today about the reduction of bird strikes and coyote kills and any other thing that dies on this land that sadly doesn't read the signs. What's the answer to that? It's not going to be easy, that's for sure, and I know the number has decreased because I read that in the local paper. Either way, one snow goose and one duck are too many snow geese and ducks, and likewise I think there was altogether 3 coyotes. But I find that distressing because what can be done to more energetically work, even hopefully with Musqueam input, on getting that down to as little as possible.
Well, thank you very much for that, Ms. Davis. I'm going to ask Steve to come up here. I am pretty familiar with wildlife control. I was here before, and I'll just preface it by saying we only cull a bird or an animal in extremis, you know, when it is actually posing a safety risk. We would much rather that they just didn't come here at all. So a big part of our wildlife management plan starts with actually building an unfriendly environment for birds and for mammals like coyotes. And what do I mean by that? Well, we don't want to have ponds that ducks would like to sit in and feed. You know, we try to make it as inhospitable as possible. We have dogs that are used to scare the birds, and I actually think that's part of habitat management, because I think the birds start to think that it's a coyote when we have our border collies go after birds and scare them. So let me assure you, we are always doing everything we can to drive those numbers down. Steve, do you have anything to add?
It is a pressing concern for us all the time. Safety is paramount. We have to ensure the safety of passengers in flight. That also includes crew. So when a strike happens, we take it seriously, but in terms of doing everything we can, particularly with changing migration patterns, we're deploying new techniques. So for example, raptors. So we have a raptor program that we use birds to scare away other birds effectively. That's the program. It's proven out to be very effective. In turn, we are this year launching a new avian radar. What that will do is give us insight, specifically using radar to track the migratory patterns on island and what is happening in terms of our changing dynamic. Then working with experts, we have our own expert. David Bradbury is in fact a biologist and on staff, and he helps guide us in terms of new techniques, exploring new opportunities to, as Craig mentioned, to keep wildlife actually away so that we don't have this conflict. But also, what can we do to reduce the conflict and improve safety at the same time?
Thank you. David, it's great to see you. David Varnes.
Good afternoon, Craig.
Hello, David.
And good afternoon to members of the audience. My name is David Varnes. I'm a member of the Machinists Union. I have been an interlocuteur at the Vancouver Airport's annual general meeting since 1992. I'd like to thank my colleague to the left here on microphone 1, who touched on one of my subjects today, and I'd like to explore it a little more fully. Craig, you mentioned that the Honourable Minister, Mr. Garneau, and that was on April 20th, made a public statement that there was not to be privatization of airports. It would not proceed at this time. Now, you may or may not know that that was prompted by a very large petition which was submitted by members of the Machinists Union to the House of Commons on April 17th on just that subject. So this is to let you know that the Machinists Union stands strongly with the Airport Authority on the subject of our opposition to privatization. My question to you concerns the other airport authorities that operate across Canada. Now, I know, as you have mentioned, that there is strong support from the airport authorities in Calgary and Ottawa to voice an opposition to privatization. I'd like to know why you haven't been able to drag, kicking and screaming, our friends from Toronto into this same camp.
Great question.
I really can't presume to speak for Toronto. We think that the case we made, and thank you for your help in making that case, was a very strong one. But I'm loath to comment on, what the thoughts of some other airport might be. We just think it's a bad idea for Vancouver. We're very gratified that organizations such as yourselves, many business organizations, all parties sent in letters and said, no, we like the airport the way it is. But at the end of my answer to Mr. Griggs' question, I want to put a caution out there that every year we make the airport better, investment bankers are whispering in people's ears. So it's never going to go away. It's going to be a constant thing in the background, and we just have to be ready to make our case.
Thank you.
Where are you going, David? I thought my answer offended you or something.
For the first year in 20 years, David has only one question. No. Okay, let's turn the floor over to Roy.
So we might be doing a couple of round robins because
Wonderful.
So my first question is about a flight feature that I loved that started last year and that got discontinued perhaps because of seasonality, and maybe you can't speak to it, but we have some airline reps here who hopefully can, and maybe you can shed some insight, and that is the after midnight Air Canada flights out east that happened. They were super popular with me and a couple of people that I know just because they maximize the amount of time in Vancouver. I've seen that the flights aren't as late anymore, and do you have any comment on why?
Sorry, I know a lot of things. Airline scheduling escapes me, and they would have looked at demand and they would have looked where to put airplanes. But Bill, are you here? Is somebody here from Air Canada? I didn't see you. Certainly, I'm sure they could answer your question. Back there. Sorry.
So you can connect with Bill after.
Sure. Last year I had asked about the retail operations closing before the last flights out, and that was even before the midnight flights. And the answer I got was stay tuned because we're making some improvements to that. I haven't actually seen that on the domestic side yet, so maybe they're still imminent. But I wanted to ask about that. And also, I had the great thrill of being part of your 2037 focus group this year. It was super fun. And in addition to that, I just want to thank the airport for being part of that. You actually added extra sessions. I was denied initially because you were all full up, so thank you for the extra sessions as well. But one of the things that I had mentioned there is it would be great if we had the possibility of a connector pathway for passengers between domestic and international so that we could take advantage of some of those retail shops on the international side. You can't do it with the US because of customs, but I wonder whether you could on the between domestic and international.
So thank you, and thanks for being part of our focus groups. They were good fun. Sorry, you can't go from domestic to international. That's Canadian customs rules. But to talk about the retail after closing, I'll invite Scott Norris, our VP of Commercial Development, to talk about where we're going with that.
Hi there, thanks for the question. Good news, we are changing the retail hours for all terminals. So in the last 6 months or so, we've been working hard with the different retail partners on how to do it. So we want to have stores open earlier and later. By and large, we're getting there. So by 1 June, we should have progressively all the stores open for longer hours. The difficulty we are having, and our retail partners are having, is getting staff to the airport at those times of day because there isn't a Canada Line service early in the morning and late at night. So we understand that that's an issue. To have to drive to the airport is an extra cost. So we're trying to find ways with our retail partners to make those employees who come out at the middle of the night, make it worth their while doing that.
Nice answer, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to take a social question, if that's okay, Dave, and then we'll come right to you.
Somebody at one.
Oh, great. In one moment, okay? This is from our awesome plane spotting community. Will there be a plane spotting viewing area on the north side, Craig?
Yes. We're just trying to fit it into the budget. So yes, we want to do it. We want to make sure that once we do it, we don't have to move it. So we are working on it. Keep asking.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to go to you, David, for 2 questions, and then we'll go to the gentleman on number 1.
Okay, Craig, it goes without saying that you're a victim of your own success. You will recall last year that we had a conversation, yourself and myself, about the capacity of buildings at the Vancouver Airport. And you felt reasonably comfortable that you had at least 3 to 5 years of time on your hands in order to meet the growing passenger demand. Well, now we've had 2017's figures before us, and that 3 to 5 years has certainly evaporated. Last year, when we had this conversation, you had already indicated that you would be mitigating some of the increased growth that the building could not handle by establishing a bus operation to airplanes. And when we had that conversation, you had indicated that it was around noon and that 2 airlines would be affected and that they would be subject to this practice. Now that we've had this monumental jump in passenger demand, what does the bus operation look like this year? Is it still 2 airlines, or is it more? And is it still around noon, or are there other peak periods?
It is more. We're building another hold room to handle 2 simultaneous flights. This next year, there's about 6 airlines, Steve, that are eligible for this. And we have criteria, so if you have a lot of connecting traffic, we want to keep that on the building. But we do have some flights that, for example, come in at 11 and don't leave till 4. They're going to be taxied or towed out and then bussed. There'll be more and more of it. And by 2019, we'll have the East Apron ready with 10 more spots. And then in 2020, we open up D Pier, which has 4 gated and 4 bus operations. So by 2020, there will be 18 more gate or gate equivalents. And we expect that they'll be very, very well used. So it's not an interim thing. It is the way we do business from now on.
Second question. On April the 9th, the Port of Vancouver tabled its estimates for the Vancouver cruise ship traffic, which is substantial through the Vancouver airport. They are predicting a 7% increase with over 895,000 passengers from 241 vessels during this upcoming cruise season. A lot of those people are coming through the Vancouver airport. Have you factored that into your planning for this year?
Yes, we have. We have a lot of operations set up for that. It's Reg Craik, our Director of Customer Care, has been pulling his hair out, figuring out how to do it. I would point out that back when I was pulling my hair out 10, 12 years ago, we were over 1.2 million passengers cruise ship. So it's actually still off the peak, but it's added to this general growth. You know, again, it's not a bad thing. Growth is a good thing. It's jobs in tourism, and at the airport, we'll just have to ensure that we give everybody a great process.
Great. Thank you. Sir.
Yes, my name is Dale Laird. And there's been a lot of talk about increase, and particularly flights, more and more flights. And more flights require more and more jet fuel. I'm wondering what is the future of jet fuel supply for the airport? Is that going to be a problem? There's been a lot of talk lately about not enough refineries. And how do you plan to deal with the higher and higher requirement for jet fuel?
That's a great question. Let me preface it by saying that starting right at the very beginning of the Airport Authority, the airlines took the role of fuel management on themselves. So it's the Vancouver Airport Fuel Consortium. I'm missing an F in there somewhere, but they actually control the supply and the sale and the distribution of fuel into airplanes. We really have no operational part. Having said that, obviously we're very interested, and right now they have gone through about a 10-year process to work on a fuel pipeline from Richmond through to the airport. And my understanding is that one of the last steps, it goes to Richmond City Council in June. Once they get approval, it's about a 4-year build, and then we'll have a very, very good supply with tankers coming in the south arm and then the fuel being piped to the airport. So they've been thinking about this a long time. We're happy that they have, and I think that that's a good long-term solution.
So you're saying that the fuel will come by tanker ship coming?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
A lot of it comes now by tanker to the Kinder Morgan plant and then gets piped down to us. So that's occurring now. But what we're really happy about the pipeline in Richmond is it's much closer. It's be a much bigger pipe, and it will take trucks off the road, because in the summer right now we have a lot of trucks that are driving up from Washington to refill our tanks, and we'd rather, that's not very sustainable. We'd rather it was in a pipeline.
I've been opposed to the truck plan for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. David.
Let's get to one of my favorite parts, Craig, and that's
financials.
Yeah, you got it. Oh yeah, yeah. And stuff awarded without tender. So let's go to page 61. And the Longview Systems Corporation got $3,807,078 of airport money. What did they do?
I think that should probably be Michelle. Could you come up and talk about that? Or is it Lynette?
It's Lynette.
Okay, sure, come on up.
Hi, I'm Lynette Dujon, and I'm the VP of IT and Chief Digital Officer here. So the Longview contract, we had an urgent need to bring project managers on to be able to handle our capital projects. We have a lot of projects, more than we've ever had before, and we needed to have some more project managers to help us manage that. So that's what that contract's about.
Okay, so that we're talking probably the kiosk systems that you have with Canada Customs, or is it computer servers related to airport management and infrastructure and controls?
There were a number of projects that we had to implement for 2017, 2018, our major capital projects or sustainability and innovation projects. So there are a number of projects that Longview is helping us with. So it's a multitude. Okay,
this one may be just a piggyback on that. The Hatch Corporation. The Hatch Corporation received $3,741,815 for consulting services. What did they consult?
Hatch Corporation is a specialized airside pavement designer company. They won the South Runway RISA project through a competitive process, and we had an urgent need to get started on the North Runway RISAs. They had the expertise, so we contracted them to continue with the North Runway RISAs.
Okay. For $150,000, what did Cool House Games Incorporated provide in consulting services?
This is the exercise portion of the event.
So Cool House Games provides us with the graphical interface for our app. So it helps people to wayfind through the terminal.
Thank you.
One more, David.
One more?
Yep.
As a matter of fact, that's what I got left, is one more.
Wow.
Craig, in November, I guess this was of last year, in November, YVR began initial engagement with the Burkeville residents for the Templeton Area Redevelopment Project, which seeks to develop 44 acres of land in the Templeton area. What are you planning to do with that?
We're planning to put in a logistical center.
A logistical center meaning an airport facility that controls like trucks and various things that move around the airport.
Yes, that a logistical company which has an air and a ground component. I'm not at liberty to tell you the name of that company right now. We haven't signed a deal.
No, I understand that. And it's going to take the whole 44 acres?
It's going to take a large part of the site. But we are working very closely with our Burkeville neighbors to mitigate the effects. For example, putting in a green barrier between Burkeville and that site.
Okay. When you use the word logistical, can you give me some idea of just what that is? Is that like an overhaul facility for trucks and cars, or what does it do?
No, it's transportation, logistics.
Oh, so it'd be like a garage?
No.
Am I getting close?
You know, it's a company that encompasses air and ground transport of packages.
Okay, okay. Well, okay, now that makes sense, because I know that in the 2037 plan, ultimately the airport plans to run or to have its own ground equipment, which will be airport property. Am I getting closer?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, I tried. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Much
you.
appreciated. Let's go to a social media question. Okay. Are there any plans to address the cell phone waiting area for passenger pickup potholes? The area is terrible. It's safer for people to avoid the lot altogether and pull to the side of the road, which we know means a high likelihood of people driving and texting.
Scott.
The answer is yes. So we also don't like the look of the cell phone lot, and so that's currently under redevelopment, and in the next few months it will reopen tarmacked with lights and free Wi-Fi. So a great improvement along with the Jet Set car park.
Translation, tarmac means asphalt.
Great. Next one, Andrea. Partnering with NGOs is often seen as an additional sign of transparency, especially for matters pertaining to the environment. Are you considering partnering with NGOs for environmental management related matters?
Well, that's a great question. Michelle, you want to come up? One I would say I already talked about is the Salmon Safe certification. That's with an NGO. But certainly it's a great idea.
Good afternoon. You're correct, Craig. We do partner with our Salmon Safe program. It is a third-party NGO, the Fraser Basin Council, that actually certifies that program. And although it's not precisely an NGO, we also have Climate Smart that works with our tenants on our behalf and helps them reduce their environmental footprint.
We're also going to become part of the Global Reporting Initiative, and that will mean third-party audits of our sustainability program in the next few years.
Great. Roy, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
So I know you've publicly committed to answering another social media question, so if you wanted to do that
fine.
first. Okay. I had two other financial questions. One is, I know we're growing always, investing always, and so the pressure to lower the airport fees, which I know you guys feel is difficult to balance with all that growth. But I'm going to ask anyway, with regards to the expansion of the outlet malls that is happening now, do you guys have a plan when you think the revenue stream coming from that, once it's completed, will be able to contribute to lowering fees? Is that something that's 7 years away, 10 years away, or never?
Yeah, I would say that we'd start to see dividends in the next 4 to 5 years.
Same question, or sorry, somewhat related questions with the airport kiosks. So you guys had a great management business that you spun off. Is that something that now that this is a hot commodity, you guys may decide to spin this off, or you see it more as core to the business and long-term value?
That's a good question. It's not actually spun off. It's a department of the airport called Innovative Travel Solutions. In order to sort of keep with their spirit of being like a high-tech sub. They do live over at the BCIT building, but they're still a department of the airport, and their primary job is to deliver products that help our processes go better. So the kiosks, it's great that we sell them, but with those 135 kiosks in the customs hall last summer, it saved us. You know, we're hitting 4,000 people an hour. So first thing is solve our problems, and as Steve talked about Check It Express, it's just a nice sort of positive benefit that we are able to sell this technology to other interested airlines and airports. But we don't intend to spin it off because we see lots of other opportunities for improvements in the next few years.
Okay. Going to that social media, so I've just been following the Twitter happening. I guess I just wanted to formally compliment the management team for having these meetings, for making them available not only in person, live streamed, email, but Twitter, because you guys do take a little bit of a risk, as apparently your overly paranoid comms team exhibited with that amateurish photo that you had to battle to get out here. So congratulations on standing up here, Craig. But more importantly, I do want to really reiterate my thanks for this. I think it's fantastic that this is happening. I have a follow-up question to that question, so I'll wait for that. But one last thing I'd like to do is just thank some of the individuals in particular who've met with me and been very gracious with their time. So I've been trying for you, Craig, but you're difficult in terms of your availability. Jerry Bruno has been available on a couple of public policy questions we've met. Thank you very much, Jerry. And Don, I harass every year, and he's very, very friendly and informative, so thank you very much, Don.
Great, thank you. We do very much appreciate new question people. So certainly if anybody has any questions, I would invite you to come up. Okay. Welcome back. Okay. Dale, thank you.
Dale, yeah, I'll go for it again. There's been discussion here on several different aspects of transportation to and from the airport. And this is not my question, it was just from something was said about employees, hard for them to get here when Canada Line is not running. As a former employee of TransLink, you do realize the N10 bus runs every half hour all night long to the airport, every half hour, from Granville Street to the airport. But that's not my question. I personally came on Canada Line. When I'm flying out somewhere, I come on Canada Line. I don't drive my car here. I don't like driving my car out here. They can all get jammed up on the Arthur Lang Bridge as much as they want, except I also, now that I'm retired, drive a tour bus to the airport. So I get jammed up in the Arthur Lang Bridge mess. And it occurs to me, and I've said this to somebody, I don't know who took my email, you need to do something about the Arthur Lang Bridge similar to the Massey Tunnel and to some other bridges and roads. Put bollards down the lanes to prevent the people that pass on the left and then cut across to exit to the right. This happens in both directions, north and south. I've seen some collisions, near collisions. It happens just about every day. The taxis are the worst. They go the left lane, and then when they get to the exit, they cut across everybody, thereby the curb lane going slower than it needs to go. Could you follow up on doing something about putting bollards down the lanes so that people don't make those dangerous maneuvers?
We're looking at all kinds of road calming technologies. That's certainly one that we'll look at. Please stay in touch and follow up with us as we try to do things. You know, sometimes you solve one problem, create another, but we'll definitely look at that.
Great. Hi.
Hi. Hello. My name is Erna B. Martin. I listened to your anecdote about the investment bankers, and they're whispering in people's ears that they want to take over your money-making venture, much like people wanted to take over Cecil Rhodes' De Beers Mining Company. Possibly you might want to have an equivalent VPL scholarship to the Rhodes Scholarship, so that some young man can invest, some young person can benefit instead of the investment bankers. and if they could, when they come back from their scholarship, give a public speech, much like is done at UBC, to share what they've learned. Thank you.
I think maybe it's something we'll do with the Musqueam scholarships. Thank you.
Is there another social media question? Okay, what steps are you taking to make your customer parking experience more attractive and a frictionless, ticketless experience that will enable you to compete far better with rideshare?
Well, you know, I'll take this one. Scott's been up a couple times. We aim to have a wide range of parking, and that's right up close to the terminal. You can pay for valet, and that's far away at the Canada Line station, and a wide range of prices. So we're trying to have the best possible parking experience, and with the addition of the 6-story parkade that will now be connected to the 4-story parkade that exists today, we think that will be a premium product. We're trying to make it as frictionless as possible. We're trying to be sustainable with it, hence the little green coins. And I'm not sure we're officially competing with rideshare yet, because it's officially not allowed. But when it officially is, we're ready to have rideshare as part of the how to get to the airport experience.
Great, thank you. Is there another one, Andrea? The YVR Board of Directors has done a remarkable job in guiding their team to improve YVR's connections to the world. One area that is noticeably lacking are services to the Middle East. Emirates Airlines and Turkish Airlines have publicly stated that they want their services to start to Dubai and Istanbul. What is the YVR Board of Directors doing to make that happen for our community?
Well, I have to say that what they are doing is empowering us to work with the government to allow more flights to Canada from those airlines. And right now, those airlines are not allowed to fly here any more than they already are. So that's a government decision, not an airport decision.
Great. And are there any more, Andrea? How many more native artworks will the traveling public have to pay for? We've had more than enough now. Let's keep this airport not a museum.
You know, I get that sometimes when I'm on giving speeches or on the radio, and I just like to point out that, you know, we've put some $3.8 billion into the terminals and runways, and we've only spent less than $10 million on art. If we were a developer downtown, we'd have to spend a lot more on community amenities. But what we do is we save a lot of money in how we construct the buildings. They're really, on a square foot basis, some of the cheapest terminals built, but we concentrate your attention on a nice art piece here and there. And so we're not going to stop doing it because, frankly, all of our passengers love it.
And YVR's CO2 emission reduction plan was promising until 2016. However, a cold winter brought YVR's performance back to pre-2015 levels. Were the goals too optimistic? How are you planning to manage these ambitious goals in light of the increasingly unpredictable weather patterns and increasing number of passenger traffic? How does YVR intend to achieve these goals once the airport expands?
Yeah, very good questions. We set ourselves some tough goals, and they're especially tough when you add 2 million passengers a year, for example, in things like potable water usage. As I said earlier, one of the big things we can do for our greenhouse gas footprint is to build that geo exchange, which will reduce our greenhouse gases by a significant amount. I don't want to say a number because I'll be held to it, but significantly. But I'm also going to say this, because I've been to some presentations and some conferences. One thing we decided not to do is purchase offsets, because we don't believe that that's a really valid way to reduce your footprint. You know, it doesn't cost a lot of money to purchase 100% offsets. So we'll maintain that as an option depending on how the regulations go in this country. But we're serious when we say we're reducing. We're not buying, you know, a couple $100,000 of offsets somewhere. We're really working on reducing our footprint. And as we set a good example, we hope that everybody on Sea Island will come with us.
Any additional ones? When will YVR put Yotel in the building? For those of us that live in other parts of BC, a Yotel on site would be wonderful. This person uses them in London and Amsterdam. Yotel.
Now, I am scratching my head. I think it's a very, very tiny hotel room. It's not quite a tube, and it's not a real hotel room. It's a roomette.
Is it a sleeping pod?
Yeah, I think it's a little bigger than a sleeping pod. Do you know them, Scott? Then you talk about it.
There we go.
Yotel is similar to a sleeping pod in a terminal environment, so passengers that are transiting from one city to another can use them. The specific need at Vancouver tends to be for people staying overnight before their flight and after a flight. And those hotels tend to be outside the building, similar to the Fairmont here in the terminal, which is a fantastic part of our offer. So that's the area that I think the most demand is. We'll keep an eye on the transiting and transfer passengers to make sure that there is the right sort of amenity in the building, and hotels could be something in the future. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I think that's it for, oh no, we have one more. I used to love flying to YVR. Lately I'm avoiding it. It's a nightmare to come through the international flight trying to catch a domestic flight. Is there anything going to change about this? So international domestic connections.
Yes, there is. In fact, there's some amazing changes that have just occurred in the last year, and Steve will tell you about them.
So we recognize the need for change, and in partnership with CBSA, Canadian Border Services Agency, Air Canada, and WestJet, starting late June, we will be introducing a new flow. So if you are flying into Vancouver and onward to other locations in BC, so the international to domestic connection, look forward to a faster, simpler connection that hopefully reduces the concept of a nightmare, makes it a dream. So that's our ambition.
Nice, thanks, Steve. Are there any other questions? Oh, we have another environment one. Okay. What third-party audits have you carried out this year? Do you want to do that one? So I can do the whole thing.
Well, this year being last year, and it's not quite third party, but Transport Canada came to inspect our safety management system, and they had booked 5 days, and they were done in 2. So we got a really good mark. So that's kind of a third party audit. Michelle?
Thanks. A couple of third-party audits. Last year, we actually had a third party come in and audit 16 of our land tenants on their fuel storage. And then we had a third-party auditor come in and audit ourselves because we wanted them to look at the equipment that we have refrigerants in. And then every year we actually audit our safety management system, and we do that for our recognition for WorkSafe BC.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay. You're down to one question?
Found one more.
Okay.
Craig, we've had a conversation about contaminated sites at the airport. It's been basically we know that a couple exist, and you have been doing a long-standing dance with the federal government as to some kind of order that comes from someone to clean up the site, and nobody wants to give that order. Anyway, on page 85, when you're talking about improving ecosystem health, you state that in 2017, 2 new contaminated sites were identified, both of which were related to historical activities. What are those sites, please?
Come on up, Michelle. I guess it's PFAS? Yeah, I'm not going to try and pronounce the actual word.
PFAS, perfluorooctane sulfonate. There are actually 2 sites, David. One was when we were looking at extending our safety area on the runway. We found an old landfill site that had bottles and wires and some batteries, and we arranged to have that.
I actually know where that is.
Great. So we arranged to have that taken to a registered landfill that could dispose of it appropriately. And then the second site is also airside, and that's what we refer to as our old fire hall, and that's where the PFAS was found. And PFAS is a compound that they used historically in firefighting foam. And so we have a management plan in place to deal with that contaminated soil. And again, we're in the process of having that transported to a registered landfill so that can be dealt with appropriately.
Thank you.
Great. And last question on from social media. We understand that YVR Airport has been prohibiting ads to inform passengers about their rights. A private for-profit company that sought to run an ad campaign at the airport was refused. What is the position of YVR Airport with respect to ads of non-profits like us?
Come on up, Scott. This is yours.
This is, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry, this relates to third-party advertising at the airport. And for all advertising at the airport, YVR has the ultimate say on what can and can't be displayed at the airport. So we follow some guidelines around what's appropriate for the airport, for the various different users of the airport, from passengers to the different businesses and communities. So we see a lot of proposals from various organisations who want to message people at the airport. In this case, we didn't think it was consistent with our advertising standards and were refused on this case.
Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up to that, because I wasn't actually expecting that answer. In terms of those guidelines for what the standards are, is that something that the airport is transparent about as well in terms of what the guidelines are for an advertiser?
Yes, I think we're quite comfortable to share those guidelines. It's broadly around making sure that it's appropriate advertising for an airport.
Two final questions.
Two final questions.
The first one is the feature of duty-free purchases on landing. So a lot of airports around the world allow you to purchase stuff just before you clear customs, as Norwegian is hinting that they're going to serve Canada and hopefully YVR, and more low-cost airlines that are charging for that cabin space. If I know that I want to bring whiskey to a member of my family that enjoys that, and I want to take advantage of that duty-free requirement rather than having to, drag it on board, pay for that carry-on, it'd be super convenient to have it here. I'm wondering if you have already had those conversations with the federal government, and if not, if you could deliver a request that was expressed at your annual general meeting that this is an area that we want to progress with. Some airports even allow you to purchase it just upon departure, save it in a locker, and pick it up upon landing.
Trying to restrain myself here. We've been trying to do arrivals duty-free for 2 decades. And back when we first proposed it, we would have been one of the first few airports to have it. Now there's 80 countries that have arrivals duty-free. We consistently fight this battle both federally and provincially, and we're hopeful that we're getting some traction. Frankly, it's even more sustainable because it means less weight on the aircraft, and it would bring jobs to BC. It would bring actual income tax to the government. There's no really good reason we can see why we don't have it. So it's frustrating.
So you have raised it with the last Conservative government and the current Liberal government as well, is that
constantly?
Great. That's fantastic news.
And you had one more question, Roy?
I do. Just one last question. Actually, it's not so much a question as a comment. I know it sounds like I'm just buttering you guys up, but when I hear that we have a biologist on staff and we're into avian radar, it's mind-blowing to me the level of leadership that this airport authority is showing for Canadians. I'm very, very proud of that. And in an era where there's so much puffery about world's greenest city and virtue signaling by this government or that government around relationships, you guys have concretely delivered on all these fronts. You guys have an autism program. You have a program to hire the disabled, real diversity in action. And I guess it's just the straight shooter in me that likes to finally see implementation as opposed to talk. And you guys deserve a huge pat on the back for that. And I want to recognize that publicly.
Thank you very much.
And seeing no other questions, I think that concludes the question and answer period.
Okay, well that concludes our annual public meeting. Thank you for coming out. Please grab a cookie on your way out if you'd like. And if you need to ask me a question, I'll be here for a few minutes. So thank you very much for coming.